Welcome, travelers. We're aware that your journey was difficult, but prepare to have your questions answered, for you have been granted an audience with the Masters of Modern.
And welcome back to Masters of Modern. I am your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman.
What's up, everybody? Our Marshall, our producer over here, looking at him, just having a long conversation about movies. How do we look, Marshall? How do we look?
You're looking great. I mean, you're looking at me instead of at the camera, but you're looking great.
Michael's not here today. This is the Ben and Alex show. It's our preview episode.
We got the boys back together.
Boys, back in town.
Eldraine is here. Shrek is here. Shrek. Are
you excited about the dark fairy tale adventure stuff?
Yeah, I'm excited for everything. I've been eating up. So far for you guys who are listening, we're on Friday, the day before the Monday this episode is coming out. Yep. So we've gotten the Brawl decks. I've been playing some Brawl on Arena. Big fan of the Dapper Dragon. We got a bunch of preview cards earlier this week. We got Garrick. We got the Planeswalkers. There was a leak on the blue-red one, so we won't talk about that one, but we got Garrick and we got Oko. We talked about a little bit of that on last week's episode.
Wasn't the entire set accidentally leaked? I heard.
No.
Oh, that's not true.
So our Facebook thread, I made a post being like, "Don't share leaks," because the Will and Kendris,
I read it.
The two brother and sister combo card was preview or leaked, and people thought that the Brawl decks. Because the Brawl decks are now playable, and they have cards that are in the set, and all of them were released at the same time, and people thought that was the leak.
Right. Because we went from having 2 cards, Tulane and Arcane Signet, to 50 cards all at once because the Brawl decks got.
So what you're telling me is the sick preview card that we're going to give you guys today from the set has not yet been spoiled.
Correct. Yeah, we're not going into people know already. This is a totally fresh, new hot take. Don't set. And on that note, if cards are leaked, the reason you don't want to share them is now, especially. Wizards has started kind of using more and more of them as kind of gifts to community members who do a lot of content like us. And when leaks happen, you're not hurting Wizards by sharing them. You don't really get that much of an advantage, but who you are hurting is the people that have worked really hard to finally get their first preview card or their second preview card, or even with stuff with us, we're really excited about every preview card we get.
Every single one. It's Christmas every single time the email comes in.
And you just don't want, if you see a leak, fine, you can talk about it with people, but don't share it online. Don't kind of propagate that information out there, because a lot of people don't want to see it, and then it also is hurting content creators. But do you want to just show what? Or do you want to go through ours?
I want to go through it. Yeah, I wanted, before we get into it, I did want to, as you said, just thank Wizards of the Coast for providing us with this amazing preview card.
Yeah, it's really awesome to get free preview cards every season, because some of them are awesome. I mean, you can see them all behind us. Yeah. Our giant printer upstairs is broken, so we can't print this one out, but I have an iPad.
Yeah, and so there's some amazing ones. So be sure to follow along with everything we're doing, guys. You can follow the show on Twitter at the MMCast. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment below with your thoughts on this card, on this episode.
Hit the bell. There's a bell.
We should have had a bell.
And the like. The like is the new hot thing. Like, comment, bell, subscribe. If you're on iTunes,
I do have a bell icon.
Or podcast.
It appeared when you guys dinged it just now.
Did you do it again?
Ding.
Yep.
How about now?
I mean, the more you do it, the more likely I am to cut this. So.
Wow, using the raw feed's gonna know.
So we'll do the rest of our shout outs later. So yep. I'm gonna give a couple stats on the card right off the bat, just to get people excited about it.
It's a sorcery.
No, you have the wrong card. It's a creature. It's blue 1.
Oh, what?
Okay, it's a 3/1 creature. It says protection. None of these things are true. I'm just kidding. We didn't get True Name Nemesis. That's not in the set.
What are you doing? Okay, this is a sorcery. Ben's an insane person.
I thought people might have got excited.
It does cost black 1, so it's a 3 converted mana cost sorcery.
Yeah, I misread.
It's called Witch's Vengeance. Actually, I think I can zoom in. We got cool art. It's got the full art version and the regular art version. You can see both. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3/-3 until end of turn.
Boom! 3 mana Wrath. Best one ever printed.
For some reason, the iPad is zoomed in there. So hopefully Marshall has replaced it with a card in my hands. Look how giant it is and colorful.
It's so pretty.
The art is a bunch of, it looks like humans with little knives above their heads.
Yeah, they're killing crosses. Some sort of creature type.
Yep. It was definitely telling you which creature type to name most of the time.
Yes.
So this card is pretty sweet.
Slivers? We're saying naming slivers, right? That's the...
Well, there's a lot of creature types in Magic, so this card has a lot of value.
Can you name Changeling and kill everything? No, that's not how that works. No, that's not how it works.
I legitimately questioned that in my mind.
I know. I got you for a second. You're like, oh, we broke it.
Nope, because all changelings are shapeshifters. Yes. You can name shapeshifter and kill all changelings.
Now, incidentally, the dumb joke that I was playing about True Name Nemesis, this kills True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, it does.
This actually is one of the things you can play that destroys it, which is exciting.
Things that weirdly don't. The red version of this wouldn't, because damage gets prevented.
Yeah.
Because protection is a dumb mechanic.
But
So
naming Merfolk does feel like a relatively common thing you might name with this card.
Yeah, so I'm sorry to every elf player out there.
Sorry, Dana Fisher.
Dana Fisher, Shivan Bot. Gonna pour one out for you.
Wizards is so mean to that poor girl.
For all the people that I'm not spilling something in a recording studio that there's like wires everywhere. For all those people that got really mad when Modern Horizons didn't have any good elf cards and tweeted at me, we have continued that pattern of hurting you.
They gave us.
I apologize.
They gave us Plague Engineer. They gave us Dead of Winter.
Yeah.
They didn't give us any elves, and then they gave us this.
There's goblins, though. We got so many goblins. By goblins.
So let's break down this card a little bit so we can talk about sort of what it is, what makes it special. This qualifies into the category of 3-mana Wraths. Wow, I'll use the phrase Wrath loosely, but 3-mana Sweepers. Traditionally, we don't really get Sweepers in green. We don't really get Sweepers in blue.
Well, in blue, you get bounce everythings. In red, you get damage to everythings. In green, you now are getting, for the first time, big giant dudes and ladies that come into play and fight everything. So in the most recent commander set, there was like a 10-9 that when it enters play, fight a thing. If that thing dies, fight another thing. And it like chain reacts fighting everything.
So there's like the flavor, there's like the sort of flavorful coolness that green has.
Yeah.
But in terms of constructed play, when you're looking at like sweepers, like ways to wrath the board, you're usually somewhere between 2 and 5 mana. And I would say like 4 is the standard, obviously, Wrath, Damnation, stuff like that. And 3 tend to be the sideboard ones that get played the most.
Well, and for a while there, they moved even away. I would say 3-mana ones are the most common because those are the ones that are like limited playable. There's a bunch of all creatures get -2/-2 in black, and a bunch of all creatures take 2 damage in red. Like that, and they're never that amazing, and they're mostly there for limited or standard play.
Yep.
After that, for a while, 4-mana Wraths of just pure Wraths were kind of the standard, and then Wizards pulled away from that and started going to 5-mana.
Yeah, because for a little while there, for a few years, they continued to reprint Day of Judgment. That was like the thing for like 3 years, I want to say, 4 years. We got Day of Judgment, and then you started to get all of those like destroy all non-dragon creatures, or you started to get like planar cleansing, and like every set would have some cool 5-mana or 6-mana Wrath. That was like kind of the standard.
And some of it was they were moving towards more of a like 4-mana destroy all creatures is just the best version of this. And we can't make anything better than that because it's already just too good. So they started moving towards...
You can't make 3-mana destroy all creatures.
Right. And so, or you can't do like 4 destroy all creatures and then gain a life for every creature that dies. You can't do 4 destroy all creatures and you can pay 6 mana to animate a land. You can't do... I'm now naming all of the things you can do with 5. You can't choose dragons or non-dragons, and you can destroy all of that. Like the modularity on the 5-mana versions was able to be a little bit more creative, making the choice of which Wrath you would play a little bit more interesting. But they've also realized a little bit that they were giving creatures a little bit too of an easy way to stay around. So they've now kind of come back to figuring out. So like we had Wrath of Kaya, where they're moving, I think, more towards 4-mana gold ones that then allow them to kind of do creative things or creative 3-drops. Dead of Winter came out, and now we have this. And what's cool about this is I think also... Wizards works on a timeline of 2 years, right? The cards that we're seeing come out now, they started coming up with 2 years ago. And so they are in a world where 2 years ago, that's when humans became a big problem, right? Or was not a problem. It was a problem for it was before the metagame shifted and other powerful things were printed. It was the best deck in the format. And we had multiple conversations on the podcast, like, how do you stop this? Because you really can't, because it's like a bunch of random things that are bad that just all happen to be humans together. And so I think from that point on, they're like, okay, we need to start coming out with tools to be able to fight this. That's where Plague Engineer came from. That's where our preview card and Dead of Winter, I think, was more just like,
they want to have a cool, flavorful Wrath.
Yeah. I think that was them looking at what's it called? What's the Pay Life Wrath?
Yeah.
Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, Toxic Deluge. And they're like, oh, let's put this in the set. And like, oh, this isn't really flavorful. This is probably too good. What's something similar? Oh, we're doing a snow theme. Let's do a snow Wrath.
Well, so let's jump into this conversation, talking about how this card sort of compares favorably to similar cards, to ones that have been printed, and then like where does it fit? So, as you mentioned, you have those limited ones. You have Pyroclasm. You have Infest.
Well, Anger of the Gods is probably the best 3-mana in modern history.
So I would say Anger of the Gods is probably a hair more powerful, but on the lower power level, Pyroclasm at 2 is good, but it doesn't do as much. You have Infest, which is like always on the edge. In red, a few years back, they gave us the uncounterable red one, right? Volcanic Fallout, because that's supposed to destroy fairies, and they're supposed to not be able to interact. You start to get into like the 3-mana, and like the last powerful one that they tried to push was Bontu's Last Reckoning, right? Black 1 destroys all creatures. You skip your tap step.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like the last one that they printed into a standard set that I was like, okay, at least the mana cost here is enticing. And I've tried playing that card in various decks here and there, and it's good, but you usually get kind of wrecked the next turn. The tempo you lose is like so rough. And then you have Plague Engineer, but like, okay, a spell-heavy deck probably doesn't really want to be playing Plague Engineer, especially if you're like a Snapcaster deck maybe, and you want to be able to get double value. Like, it's fine, but -1/-1's not that far of a reach. So at 3 CMC, as a spell in black, is there something better than this you're playing in Modern? Like, is there something you 100% want to play that is better than this in a black deck?
I mean, Damnation is the one go-to. I think it's kind of in this weird spot where what you want to be really is in a deck that's playing just enough creatures where you don't want to board wipe, but just a little enough creatures where and you mentioned Snapcaster Mage or Kess are another good example, are cards that like can abuse the fact that this is a sorcery.
Yes.
While also being able to kind of take advantage of it in a one-sided wrath, like playing a Wizards deck or a deck with like, Snapcaster Mage or Delver or Cass or whatever, but then being able to name Merfolk or Elves or Fairies or Zombies or Goblins or humans, Slivers, Spirits,
Elementals
now.
It's very significant. I think one cool thing about this
All those
too,
every one of those creature types is a real deck in Modern, by the way. That's pretty cool.
And,
like on a different note, like
Knights looks like it's threatening to become a real deck too.
I think that the tribal push in Modern over the last 2 years has been really awesome.
we forgot the best one, Warlock.
I was not here for that.
Marshall can't even comment on it because it wasn't in the real episode. He might delete this entire moment just out of spite.
So, as you said, Damnation, Wrath of God's not really played because any deck that's going to play Wrath of God's just going to play Supreme Verdict. Like, basically,
So, as resident person who's played, there's a choice. And it depends on what's being played, but like there are times where regenerate creatures are more of a problem than counter spells. Like, and the other reason you play them, there's the old Esper trick of you play Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, Damnation, Snapcaster Mage, and Gifts Ungiven, that you like
always can get
are
Wrath.
100% going to wipe the board if you need to.
Yeah.
And with humans around, I mean, that's actually something to kind of talk about with this card. One of humans' main game plans is I just play Meddling Mage and call Wrath of God.
Yeah.
And so you really want, or Plague Engineer. So what this does offer is if humans becomes a bigger problem, you now have 5 cards you can play on your sideboard of different creature board wipes that are all going to be good against all of them. But then if they're playing that kind of game plan, or they, do some other way to get rid of it, you have different named cards, so you can kind of have a versatility.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've been playing a lot around Sultai-based snow decks, and there have definitely been games that I've lost to humans because I've boarded in my Dead of Winters, and they can get down a Meddling Mage naming Dead of Winter, and I just have trouble getting it off. So being able to side in, instead of 3 Dead of Winters, I could side in 2 Dead of Winters and 1 Witch's Vengeance.
Right.
And now I have more outs.
So yeah, I think this obviously compares favorably to those sort of like common and uncommon cheaper ones. So like, all of the Infests and the Pyroclasms of the world. It's not as good of a card, even at 3 mana, as your Day of Judgments, or as specifically your Damnations and your Supreme Verdicts. Mm-hmm. So in the 3 mana slot, is this better or worse than Anger of the Gods?
I think it depends on what the format looks like. This is definitely worse 3 weeks ago.
Right.
In a world where Dredge and Hogak decks and Phoenix decks were kind of the main things that you had to fight against. And even if Phoenix does come back, which I think it will, this card definitely is not meant for that matchup. And so you're losing a little bit of the versatility there that Anger of the Gods would give you. Now, not every deck can play double red, right? That's like I think more like this is a deck that like Zombies, this card seems great in Zombies because Zombies could have a matchup where or other decks that like are more leaning towards black and like or want, as we mentioned with Snapcaster Mage or other cards that you want to hold on to or not have die to your one-sided wrath. Anger of the Gods is going to kill your stuff.
One thing this interacts with that I think is actually really cool in Standard, and I've actually been looking at this card and trying to find if there's a way I can use this in Modern, is the new 3-mana Chandra, because it targets a spell that costs 3 or less from your graveyard. So I really like the idea that this card exists, and you can have a Planeswalker that can directly access this, and it's more than once. Even if you want to use it as a 1-for-1 spell just to get rid of a creature early, and then later on to kind of sweep the board. I actually think that card, that Chandra in Modern, is kind of underplayed.
I think it's underrated. I think it's really good. I have it.
Sorry, I was going to say, I've seen her now in some Scred Red lists, and some of them were splashing black, so you could play Dead of Winter out of the board, and being able to flash it back with Dead of Winter, same thing with like this deck.
Oh, the fact that it has like Snapcaster Mage attached to it, and then in Scred, it's really good because Scred Red, and for all intents and purposes, is a red Planeswalker tribal deck at this point. You're playing like Tukoth and Chandras and other ones, and so having a 3-drop one that's good, and like 2 attack, 2 damage on the board, the turn it comes into play isn't something to laugh at. Being able to pump up Koth so it ultimates like the turn after it comes into play 2 turns in a row. Same with 4-mana Chandra. Like, I have an Oathbreaker deck where she is my Oathbreak. She is the commander. Alongside there's the new red double activation on a Planeswalker or a sped card. Right. And it's nutty. Like, she does insane things where she's like, I'm ultimating, and like every walker gets it really crazy out of field, and that doesn't even come into play. Talking towards the like fact that it's Snapcaster Mage on a 3-drop red Planeswalker.
She comes down on 5 loyalty or 4? She goes up to 5.
She goes to 5.
She goes to 5. And then also, like, let's just talk about the fact that she references red Planeswalkers. Well, there's a pretty good 2-mana red Planeswalker in Modern right now. It's called Wrenn and 6. Sure. It's probably going to get banned.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not going to get banned.
You don't think so?
No.
I had heard people, like pretty high up people in Vegas, no names, but like, pros, talking about that they think the power level of this card is maybe too high for Modern.
Hey, that was before Stoneforge Mystic was in the format. So now you have Naya is not the best color combo to play either of those cards in. So you're not going to have that weird smushing them together. Right now, based on my understanding of how the internet is reacting to the format, we're just in the land of big mana, Tron and Scapeshift decks are going to be just, and like that's the exact type of deck that Wrenn and 6 is bad against.
Right.
And Stoneforge Mystic and Wrenn and 6 are kind of very similar, where they're like, these are very powerful cards that enable very powerful strategies, but all those strategies are mid-range interactive stuff, right? Like, it's all like kind of how they want Modern to be played versus Faithless Looting, which was allowing Dredge to, function, or linear decks like Infect or Affinity, or even worse, stuff like Urza, stuff that's like Prison Affinity, where nothing is happening. You really want, I think Wrenn 6 is exactly what they want to be good in Modern.
Sweet.
And it's not like Deathrite Shaman hated on strategies at the same time of color fixing. Like, I think actually if Deathrite Shaman was just tap, make a colorless mana, or tap, make a green mana or black mana, so it didn't offer color fixing, it would have been, I would say, it's probably under the line of being banned.
I agree. That's so funny. I actually have thought about this before. Like, the biggest issue with that card is just the fact that like it spins your strategy on turn 1 into such a crazy stratosphere of what you're able to do that if it was colorless, I just don't. It's really good.
It would see play. Like, it would absolutely see play because it's still a birds. But yes, it wouldn't.
It's the same kind of conversation that I've been saying to people. Like, what if Wrenn and 6 cost 3? Well, it would still see a ton of play. Yeah. I mean, Deathrite Shaman at 2, if it was 2 mana but the same card, would still be played. It would still see a lot of play. If you just add 1 colorless to the cost, I still think that's a card Modern people like.
And that's like, we talk about knobs, and the whole conversation we had on the Patreon only section of Warlocks was like kind of like knobs are important, and creature types are a knob you can do as well. Like, if Deathrite Shaman wasn't an elf, does it see play? There's different, and I don't think that's a knob on that creature that would have mattered. But there's small changes you can make, and you get into a world where you just really have versatility. I think Wrenn and 6 is what Modern wants to be, though. Like, I don't think they're like fighting against it.
There's a Tyrannosaurus Rex upstairs.
I know.
You got to discard a card every upkeep. Upstairs.
So we've done 3 drops. I think this board wipe is worse than Anger of the Gods, except that it's not strictly worse, and the reasons you would play it are you're trying to one-side board wipe, or you're trying to have a versatile number of threats, or you're playing a non-snow, non-red deck, right? Like those are kind of the three. I think this is as good as Anger of the Gods and Dead of Winter. It is worse than those two options, but both of those two require you to be doing something that would lead you down this path. I definitely think it's better than Bantu's Reckoning. Bantu's Reckoning isn't.
Nobody plays that card.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a similar mold of the push.
Yeah.
So I think that also the thing to remember about this is anytime they get into the space of 3 versus 2, we know the power of Lightning Bolt. We've seen it for years. Like 3 CMC or 3 toughness on a creature is such a significant thing to deal with. So obviously things that have 4 are going to be good, but this fits the same bill where it kills basically, most of the important stuff.
Right. And though on a similar note, like the more Lightning Bolt we'll see play, the less likely this card is to be good, right?
Because people will specifically play creatures
that don't die to Lightning Bolt.
So that, agreed.
So I do think we're getting into 4-drops, and that's what, I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit where Wrath of God, Damnation, Supreme Verdict, these are cards that are kind of the platform. Kaya's Wrath was printed, that's in that world. The biggest issue there is it's like a very, like, it's white, black. It's not white, black, colorless, so it's a harder to cast spell, as well as white and black just being a less played color combination.
I guess if you wanted, like, let's say you just had to deal with indestructibility or something that, like, the minus was so important with, you could just play Languish. Like, it's possible you would just do that.
Because doesn't Languish requires you to just play a ton of swamps, right?
Languish is
there's
-4 for 4.
Got it,
But it's the
sorry.
same casting cost as Damnation.
Mutilate's the one you're thinking of.
I was thinking of Mutilate.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
historically,
either
of the, like, at that point, I think you play Dead of Winter, right? Like, if you're like, oh man, I need to give minus counters to this between Prismatic Omen or not Prismatic Omen, Prismatic Vista and Snow Egg.
Snow Egg. Sacrifice Snow Egg to add
What is
one
it?
mana.
One snow artifact. Fixing your mana.
Arkham's Astrolabe.
Arkham Astrolabe.
That's the one, yes.
Between those two, like, there's no. It's very easy to play Dead of Winter.
Let's rename that card Snow Egg for the show.
Snow Egg. Yeah.
But see, it doesn't draw a card, so it's not a real egg.
It does draw a card.
Oh my god, it is Snow Egg.
Snow Egg.
Oh, I guess in my mind, eggs always have to crack themselves.
To draw a card.
Or they draw a card on the way in, but they crack on the way out to do their thing. So
Right, there's no cracking.
Right.
It's a crack. It's a
crack-free egg.
It's a crack-free egg.
You get a
Come
bonus.
here to Modern for crack-free eggs.
It's a fabric.
Also, Pauper. Apparently, it's destroyed Pauper.
Oh, it's completely eviscerated Pauper. Everyone is begging for it to be banned in Pauper.
You just play all the colors. But yeah, so I think we're on the same page. Like that's kind of the suite for the most part of 3s and 4s. It's not for Modern. It's basically not interesting to talk about 5s. They basically don't exist.
5 mana board wipes at 5. I thought there was one that was play. Oh, we missed a 4-drop one, the new one, the white one. And when people attack you, you path to exile all of those things.
Settle the wreckage.
Settle the Wreckage. So Settle the Wreckage has seen play.
Yeah,
especially because Settle is better in Modern than it is even in Standard, because you max play 3 basic lands.
It's just like you're just like mashing a bunch of Path to Exiles together, and that card is like played everywhere.
Right, one of the reasons Path to Exile is good is because on the second one, the chances that them having a basic land is heavily decreased, and then it escalates after that.
Yeah,
so
right.
Settle the Wreckage is the same, but it does it all at once.
Oh.
There's probably the second most played board wipe in the format that we haven't talked about.
Second most played board wipe
Behind
in
Supreme
the
Verdict, or is Slagstorm? Did you guys mention Slagstorm?
No, it doesn't get played. Oblivion Stone? Is that-
Terminus at Miracle cards.
It's really good.
It's just really good. I think it's better than this card. I think it is in the conversation of best board wipe ever printed.
What is the word? Okay, so this card, unfortunately, guys, I hate to say it, not top 5. Really good. I think this card has some application.
But I think it's playable in Modern, which I think puts it in the top 10.
Yeah.
And I think it might, I think it could be on that edge of
be
like
like
5. Question, I think it's it or Anger of the Gods in Modern. In Modern, top 5.
Okay, Magic all time. What's the best Wrath?
I'm saying Terminus.
You think Terminus is number one?
I'm sitting on that. I mean, with Miracles and Legacy just being that card and the Angel Wing condition,
I think that Toxic Deluge is the best Wrath ever.
Yeah, it's hard to pick between those. Those were the two that I was juggling around in my head.
Toxic
I
Deluge
think
is
it's a
nuts.
good thing that Toxic Deluge is not legal in Modern. I think Terminus is much safer for Modern than Toxic Deluge, but
the hoops you have to go through
It
are
is
healthier.
hard to argue with. 1 mana, wipe the board. Whew.
I would say probably for
3
me.
mana.
For Terminus.
Oh, for Terminus. Yeah.
I was saying I think Terminus is healthier for Modern than Toxic Deluge is. But at the same time, it's hard to argue with 1 mana. Wipe the board.
Feels like probably also is it Verdict like third or fourth?
I think Verdict is.
I like Verdict more than Damnation and Wrath. I think that on like a
I
just
agree.
even keel, it's the better of those. It's the best of those three.
Sure.
Regeneration's not super significant in Magic anymore. So like, but it being uncounterable is very significant.
Yeah,
So I would say it's probably like Deluge, Terminus right in there, and then maybe it's Verdict is 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Do we count Anger of the Gods as a Wrath? Because I feel like Anger of the Gods deserves to be up there. I feel like it's the one that's been putting in so much work.
Well, the
in modern
exile effect is just so
Yeah, exile, because we don't have too many Wraths that exile. And that's the thing about Terminus. It essentially exiles. So that's part of what also makes it so good.
Anger scales based on modern versus not. If it's modern, I think it's top 5. I think because Toxic Deluge goes away. I think it's in modern though. I also think Supreme Verdict is a step below, or not Supreme Verdict. Terminus is a step below Supreme Verdict. I think in modern it goes Supreme Verdict, Terminus, like Modern History. No, the artifact one from Tron that I'm forgetting. Oblivion Stone, Anger of the Gods. Pyroclasm, I guess, or like
those are,
what about All Is Dust?
All Is Dust. No,
I mean, those are
All Is Dust has seen almost no play in modern. Since,
also, a lot of the stuff we're talking about is pretty meta dependent
compared to. I mean, Ugin has seen more play than All Is Dust.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to pick between those two, I'd pick Ugin.
Yeah, like on an all-time scale.
All time, like once we're adding Commander and Modern and Legacy and even Standard play, I think it's Terminus number 1. Toxic Deluge number 2, Supreme Verdict number 3, and then you start getting into the world of the
Damnation, Wrath of
Ugins, Wrath of Gods. That
Yeah.
you know, then
O-Stone
it
is pretty
goes-
significant in Commander and stuff.
Yeah, I think O-Stone might be 3rd all time to me almost, except the fact that it hasn't seen too much Legacy vintage play versus the Wrath of God Supreme Verdicts because Force of Will exists in that format. Like Supreme Verdict is so much better once Force of Will is in a format than it is regularly.
I would throw in this wrinkle that if we are actually including the blue ones and we're talking all time, Psych Rift is in the top 5. If we're
It is
saying,
definitely the most damaging board wipe to Commander.
if we are talking about all formats and getting rid of everything counts, Psych Rift is that good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You're getting no arguments that it should be in the top
Commander,
5.
which is a format that I enjoy playing greatly.
Like, I mean,
On
Psych Rift, I think, is
camera.
the only. Yeah, I think Psych Rift is the only board wipe I think that anyone has ever really called for a banning in a format over.
Psych
And-
Rift?
Yeah, Psych Rift. There's a lot of Commander players that are like, this is too cheap. Like, this is too cheesy. Like, it's too many games are like, oh, this is an interesting game. Oh, Psych Rift. The game stopped being interesting.
And like Terminus is closest, but like in reality, Terminus gets other cards banned, right? Like, and it's partially because Terminus is alongside its other Miracle friends,
Right.
And so,
Well, and because when you Terminus, you don't get a whole board full of creature threats that survive the Terminus.
right, you do when you Miracle the Angel token one.
There's a special place in my heart for Curse of the Swine.
And
just
more
for the
like
record.
top Brainstorm, Jace. These are cards that get
Yeah.
talked about more, and top has been banned in things, and that is because of the Miracles mechanic. I think top wouldn't have been banned if Miracles cards weren't printed, and Terminus is a reason that deck was able to stabilize so easily in Legacy was because you're able to just consistently and almost guaranteed wipe the board for 1 mana whenever you feel like it.
Well, so here's an
Also, why you end up the draw bracket against elves. I ended up in a draw bracket playing Miracles, played against elves 6 times, and every single time went to time. Like I eventually scooped from I had no more points left because I had like 0-0-1s from just like elf matches where I was like, okay, it's your turn, shuffle, do all the things that like 8 different ways that spin top to find Terminus, play Terminus, put all their elves on the bottom, and then they play all the elves again, and
Draw
that
a billion
takes 10
cards.
minutes on their turn. And then my turn, like, do all the things, find Terminus, play it. And then, like, I do all the elves things. And then, like, each turn lasted 10 minutes because I'm topping, and they're playing 12 creatures.
So
RIP top.
here's a question for you. We're talking about all these different wraths, and we're comparing all these different wraths because of like the things that they combat specifically. So bottom of the library, combating indestructibility, protection, regeneration. Which thing right now in Magic Design, like 2019 today, is the thing that you have to combat the most with a wrath? Is it recursive creatures that come back from the graveyard?
I mean, if
Feels like the exile thing that gets offered by Anger, that effect feels like the most significant thing a Wrath can do right now.
As someone who has resolved an Anger of the Gods against Dredge, I can tell you that feels real good and very important to catch a bunch of amalgams and bloodghasts with
Well, and we're like
And even
kind of the Phoenixes at the
Vengevine
time.
can be caught with it too.
Yeah, so that like it's a little bit of a weird moment because we're in the shift away from those graveyard decks being really good. And once again, 3 weeks ago, before the ban announcement, when Faithless Looting was around, and we had Dredge, Phoenix, and Vengevine decks all being very significant pieces of the format, even before Hogak was printed. I think Anger of the Gods was like being able to exile. So Terminus or Anger of the Gods were the two most important things you could be playing to get rid of stuff. Now, in modern times, I almost think that like versatility of board wipes is the most important because I do think humans got a lot of tools available to it and being able to do that. I think -3/-3 is also in a world where like Batterskull as a thing you're facing down is like significantly worse than it used to be. Like you like not being able to do once in a world where Lightning Bolt is bad because there's an X4 that's the most played creature in the format.
Yeah, I suppose if we're assuming that the Batterskull
And a 0/4 that's played a lot in the
and like protection from colors is an issue. So I think red damage is not as good because War Peace and Fire and Ices are running around. So I think right now like I'm very leaning towards like Terminus being an answer I'd want. I like this one specifically because there are decks out there that are very creature centric, and this is very good against them. But I do think that like if I was running into a tournament, Supreme Verdict or Terminus would be. I mean, I play Blue Eye Control because I want just to find sorts and put them into play and attach them to Stoneforge Mystics.
I guess protection is going to be very significant in this new world. So that is probably another reason why this card is particularly good. Because if you're playing like I don't think like the Squad Hawk plan is going to be probably one, but like I think, you know, like a Lingering Souls with like a sword on it or like something like that. This is good against that. This is very good against that.
I mean, like if I was walking to this there's a big MCQ happening in Los Angeles this weekend, and if I was playing in it, I probably would lean towards just playing Tron or something with Eldrazi or playing something that can fight against those. And you know, being able to get rid of a bunch of big things, I think is the most important thing to be able to do if you're going to be playing a fair deck. Or just go over fair decks, which is what you're doing with Urza or whatever. But then, I mean, like, the nice thing about the tribal stuff, like Plague Engineer, is it does hurt Urza a little bit. It makes it so that the Thopter combo doesn't work, right? Like, it turns off that piece of the win condition. Yeah. So I kind of think Plague Engineer might be the best board wipe in the format.
I just want to resolve Linvala in Modern right now. That just feels like
you can do that. That's the thing you can do.
Yeah, it does feel like I really kind of wish, would it have been busted if this card gave -4/-4 instead?
I don't think so. I
Because
kind of wish it was too.
Languish does it to all creatures for 4 mana. So it seems like for a specific creature type for 3 mana would have been fine. And like you said, we now live in a format that's filled with 4 toughness creatures that are dominating. There's Batterskulls, there's Urzas, there's things in the ice.
I think it's for standard. I think if in standard, if for 3 mana you were going to be able to give -4/-4 to any creature type, they're not
to
gonna,
half the board, right?
they're not gonna design standard creatures that are strong enough to withstand that, because then they have to be making a bunch of creatures that have X5 that like, which like I guess you can do, but like you're like your standard environment gets pretty wonky if that's what you're designing.
Even
It's
like
risky
it just
to-
controls. I mean, what you're really doing is like, hey, Knights players, you know how you're really excited that we just printed a set that's going to push Knights cards for the first time in maybe the history of Magic, or since like before Modern existed, other than maybe a core set once. Too bad. Here's a board wipe that just wrecks your day. Like every black player is just going to be able to wipe your board and keep their creatures. Sorry, Knights. Like too bad.
I think that like so hand disruption, counterspells, wraths, land destruction, things like that. Like you really don't want to push those things that hard. If you push them super hard, the game gets less fun usually.
Right. We were talking before we started recording about how back in the day, Wizards like made a decision. Oh, creature combat's going to be more important. And so as we move, I think we talked about it earlier, but as we move forward, we're going to slowly make creatures better, because that's a part of Magic that's fun and interactive, and people interact with each other. Creatures,
and I think you had a good point that the creatures are counters to each other,
right?
As long as the evasion aside, but creatures can counter one another at least temporarily through chump blocking and that sort of thing.
Like the best creature can be countered by another the best creature, right? Like because the main feature that makes them really good is that they attack and do damage. And if I have something that's in your way, great. Or a really good creature can be blocked by another really good creature. A really good enchantment, I can play as many enchantments as you want, unless it says destroy enchantment on it. Nothing happens. Like
yeah, I mean, I think like so if you go back
on that point came from Planeswalker. So I remember now we were talking about Planeswalkers at the beginning of the cast and how the new Planeswalker design with Oka being like kind of cute and does a bunch of little different things instead of like +1 defend itself, -1 draw a card, minus if I ultimate I win the game. Like that, I think that model got really boring. We literally had like 3 years of 5 mana walker, +1, draw a card, -1, removal spell, -10, win the game. And and that was getting really tiresome, and War of the Spark moved towards, if planeswalkers were interactive and did stuff, it's a more interesting design space, and that's where creatures came from. And board wipes, if they're too good, eliminate that feature of the game.
So one thing that we've been doing a lot of, and you guys have heard a lot about this, but the last like 3 or 4 major events, I organize these big chaos drafts at the GPs, and Alex and I play in them always. At this point, he's like, I feel like you're reluctant to get into them, but then you always have like the most fun. I'm always
they're really great.
I'm always like pulling you away from a Commander game.
It's like a 3-hour commitment, and in that time I can play like 4 games of Commander or Modern or something else, and they're really fun. I highly recommend it. Any GP or big event that Ben is at, inevitably he will play a deck that is really cute in the main event, lose, and then host a chaos draft, and they're all really great. He curates it. He's like done enough of them now where like it's not like, I just found whatever cool old packs. It's like no. Every pack that we're playing with has the word flashback in it.
And this last event was amazing. We got to talk about it a little bit. But so I think one thing that's really interesting about the power creep and creatures is that when we do these events, because I like to get old packs, you are absolutely slapped in the face with the power level of creatures now versus then. Like let's just think about like set like Nemesis, which we had like played some packs with Nemesis. And you had like Blastoderm was in Nemesis. And at the time, Blastoderm dominated.
Right.
It's green 2 for a 5/5, I think.
With Shroud.
Does it have Shroud?
Yeah, it's a 5/5 with Shroud, but it has then
Vanishing 3 or something?
Yeah.
And
Fading 3.
Yeah, Fading 3. And so it's like a big creature. It's like a 5/5 you get for like 4, and it has a few turns, and it's hard to interact with. And like it dominated Standard. It was the creature. You even go to like Lorwyn. You go to Lorwyn Standard, and I'm pretty sure like the best creature in Lorwyn Standard was obviously Tarmogoyf, but the other green creature people played was like Ren's Run's Vanquisher. It was like a green 1/3/3 that you conditionally could cast, and it had like Death Touch, I think.
Wasn't Kitchen Finks in that? Oh, limited. Well, Tarmogoyf isn't in. Tarmogoyf's in Time Trial.
No, it was a Future Sight and then Lorwyn. So like those
Future Sight Lorwyn.
That's standard. That's what I was saying.
Kitchen Finks was around. It was kicking. It was cooking some stuff.
Was the following year.
It was the following set. So by the time,
it was in Shadowmoor, not. Because the hybrid. Okay, yeah.
But like I just remember that, and like that's like back in like 2008, right? A 3/3 with an ability for 2 was really good. Like
I was so excited in my Chronicles pack to get a Gabriel Angelfire, which is a 7 mana summon legend. It's an angel, I assume now. Yes. During your upkeep, Gabriel gains one of the following abilities until your next upkeep: Flying, First Strike, Trample, Rampage 3, which is an ability that doesn't do anything, but and it's a 4/4, so it doesn't even have flying at its base level. You had to like choose
7 mana 4/4 vanilla that can gain one of
during your upkeep for
ability.
That turn. You might be able to gain Flying, First Strike, or Trample.
Like getting like a 3/3 for 3 back then was like pretty good,
right?
Like that was the thing. And so like nowadays, when they print a 5/5 for 4 mana in green now, that's like a common. Like it's just a common. That's like a card you just get in limited.
Well, like we were
talking there are uncommon 4 mana 5/5s that are like don't see play.
Like we're talking about there's a hunter in this new set that costs like 1 a green, a black, and it's a 3/3. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you make a food, and you can sack 2 foods to draw a card. And we're like, I guess that's medium. Like if that card could have been a mythic 12 years ago and would have been like in that card, like, oh my gosh, you guys playing the hunter deck?
That card would have just been like the green Psychotog back then. It would have just been like, that's like a power level. By the way, like I think you probably talked about this a lot when I wasn't here with Michael, but are you just like hyped to the gills for foods?
Oh, I'm gonna bring multiple and I recommend every person do this at every pre-release that they go to. Bring bags of Halloween candy and use those as your tokens, and then if they die or you use them, you have to eat the candy.
Oh, yeah, that's so
just
sick.
Get a bag of M&Ms. Like that just
or Kit Kats. Yeah. Well, because I don't want to use like a little M&M. I want to use like a fun size Snickers or Kit Kats.
You're gonna be so sick by the end of the day.
What if you got like really fancy like Cadbury, like one of those like
a really
rich milk chocolate,
or like one of those where like you like don't know what's inside of them because it's like they're all like different shapes.
You realize that we know because of the spoilers that there's some cards that create like 3 food.
Do you hate chocolate, Marshall? Do you hate?
I do have a limit on how much chocolate I could eat.
Oh, okay. Well, this isn't for Marshall, but you can use healthier snacks like those freeze-dried veggie snacks that Tappy and Olivia have it every GP.
All right, so we've talked
Potato
about
ones are the best ones because they're basically just French fries.
We've talked about all the different wraths. We've talked about the power level of the creatures that these wraths sort of interact with now. Do you want to have a conversation about creature types? Because that's the last piece of this. You told me that you talked about warlocks for like an hour.
Oh, yeah. So on the Patreon only thing, because I'm assuming Marshall didn't leave it into the episode since it already got released, there is an entire 30-minute discussion. We recorded for an hour and 45 minutes because Marshall and Michael refused to admit that it's fine that warlocks was printed as a creature type. They think that warlocks are stealing wizards and shaman jobs.
Specifically stealing a lot of shaman jobs.
No, no. Michael was high on. You were shamans. Michael was wizards, and I'm in the like. It's fine camp, but I was the bad guy.
I mean, the thing about creature types, right? New creature types in Magic that I like. I'm on board with introducing new creature types. I am. Except that there are so many underrepresented creature types, and I just want redundancy because that's one of the most fun things about Magic is when they start to add to old portfolios that don't have a lot of creatures, and then they like find a way. Like rogues is one I always talk about. I love rogues, and like why can't we just get more rogues? So like giving me a new variation on shaman and wizard. Well, how many years is it going to be until I actually have like enough depth with Warlock that it's going to be interesting beyond just standard? Right?
Well, I think there's two pieces to it, and we talked about this a lot in this segment. So people that are Patreon only or listen to the Patreon only Rawcast, you're going to get a little bit of a repeat on this, or
they're just going to get a second helping of this because this might get cut out and put Patreon only.
No, because it'll be quick. I don't think we want to spend hours on this like we did last time, but. And my points in that at that moment are kind of twofold. One is in talking about this after the argument before. Shamans don't really fit like what their idea for what a shaman could be isn't the most black mana kind of focused thing, and they might be. And on top of that, wizards are much more about like magic school of thought, and there can still be black wizards, but it's always been like a weird disconnect that there's like death wizards when. In magic terminology, death wizards are things that aren't that warlocks or witches or necromancers you get into, and then there's a whole library of things that you can go beyond that. So from a flavor perspective, having a differentiation for the black mana version of this that aren't really doing the same things that wizards and shamans are do from a flavor perspective, I understand. The other piece is, and this is what kind of got a conversation on the knobs, right? Where eventually they're going to go do Wizard Tribal again. It's too easy, and it was such a success in Dominaria that there's no way we don't keep doing that.
Right.
And wizards are, after humans, the most printed creature type, probably. I mean,
elves, goblins. Right?
No, but like elves aren't in every set. Goblins are in every set. There are wizards in every set in
Humans
Magic.
in every set.
Like humans are in every set, and it's going to take longer than it did for humans to become like that powerful. But it's eventually you'll have a amalgamation of wizards plus being pushed Wizard Tribal that you'll start having a similar problem that humans has, where it's like, oh, there's just like every wizards we print can be in this wizard deck and is too good. Like right now you have Snapcaster Mage, Kess. I mean, like there's an argument that this is an issue with Cavern of Souls more than anything else, but it is an issue. And like wizards having additional knobs to be like, you know what, this thematically isn't really a wizard. This can be something else. I'd rather this have like not accidentally be too good in Wizard Tribal when we revisit Wizard Tribal and Dominaria 2 at the end of 2020 or whatever, or 2022. Or I want more no creature types. Let's get some more nameless ones back.
Well, you got Warlock. That's practically no creature type.
Whoa. Shade Throne. Noble is good. I'm happy Noble's here.
I think Noble's great.
Is Sorin creature type vampire noble?
Probably.
Yeah.
I have two questions.
One, Jay and Ellie does this really good. Wait, sorry. Yeah. Before you jump to a new thing, Jay and Ellie does this really cool polls where he's like taking each planeswalker that hasn't gotten a creature and is like, what is their creature type? And when they announced Noble and Warlock, he was like, oh no, I have to redo like half of these.
Question number one. Do we have enough content that will make the actual episode to have a real episode?
Probably.
It's question two. Do you have anything else that we want to visit before we get out of here? Because I feel like we're nearing the end of our episode.
What is your favorite 3 toughness tribe? What tribe is no longer playable because this card exists?
I'll tell you what. I'm excited about the effect of this card on Spirits. I feel like Spirits is one of those modern decks that I've never felt really inclined to play, and they just feel like they feel like humans that fly. So it's just like humans that are harder to block. So the fact that most spirits, like Spell Queller and stuff, like hang out at 3 toughness and Supreme Phantom. I do love that, like, if they have just one Supreme Phantom, it doesn't matter if it's giving that extra plus toughness stuff, because you can neg it and it kills all their board.
Well, and I think part of that is it's another issue. Like spirits is the third likely type to like every plane has spirits on it. Every plane has wizards. Every plane has humans. And like the things that are on every plane are the ones that modern, it appears, has the strongest tribes of. And then second tier after that ends up being the like the magic, not iconics, but staple
Yeah.
creatures of goblins, zombies, merfolk, elves, and then the step below that is like the weird stuff that just happened to be like supported 4 times, like slivers, right? Where it's like there's like these weird like popular things that people keep trying to make, or just like one set did a real good job of making it more powerful.
I feel like you already mentioned it, but I think Elves is the one that takes the biggest hit with this. Elves doesn't feel like they get very many of their creatures past 3 toughness. You have less lords that get played in that deck, and it's really just about having like sheer number, like power in numbers.
They only play 1, right? They don't play the
They
only
only
one
just
they play
play
is
Archdruid.
Archdruid.
And if Archdruid didn't make mana, they wouldn't play Archdruid.
They don't play Elvish Champion, yeah. And they don't play...
They don't play the 2 mana one. The
play Azuri, which
Azuri, which doesn't help here.
if you're up and like ready to go turbo, and you try to do this, and they have access to Azuri that turn once, even
Azuri turns this card off once it's online, because you can just do it in response, and then this card doesn't do
Azuri
anything.
is other elves, correct? Or Azuri does not pump himself, which means that if you play this and they Azuri in response because they want to
he regenerates other elves.
He
gives himself the overrun.
Yeah, everything gets overrun. He just regenerates other elves. So he can't. So the part of this card that Azuri doesn't save you on, he can't save himself anyways.
Yeah.
But he can overrun to protect
And it is notable that this thing does get around one of Elf's primary board wipe protections in heroic intervention, because it doesn't matter if you guys are indestructible.
Sure.
All.
Where the elf deck does with the black-green one is such a big game against you is that they will have already drained you with their Shaman of the Pack several times. You'll be at a very low life total by the time you do this. So
level like turn 3 is not that, like they don't have that many chances to get Shaman of the Pack by turn 3.
if they're on the play and they just play Shaman on turn 3, but I mean, in my experience with the elf deck, usually you've taken a lot of damage by like a couple 2/2s attacking and then 1 Shaman, and you're at like 5, and then they recover and you just don't get there.
Sure. I do think that between Plague Engineer and this, because I think Plague Engineer is the bigger problem for elves. That was already just like kicking them into. They were already kicked in the knees. What this is really doing is just like elves needs help. I think more than anything is just there just needs to be a little bit better ways for elves to fight against board wipes of a minus amount, because Merfolk dodges all these things. Because they get real big real quick. The first lord gets them all above 1, and then the second lord gets them all above 4. So, like, I think Merfolk is relatively safe, but Elves is the one that, like...
I mean, I think this card, unlike Plague Engineer, which didn't do much against Merfolk, I think this card does.
Sure, I agree with that.
Because you have to have 3 lords out for your lords to live through this. And in general, you'll have 2 lords out.
Sure.
So this wipe, both of your lords will both be 3/3.
And then everything else dies.
Them, and then everything will cascade down.
And the fact that it costs 3 is actually very good, because it means your curse catchers and things like that are a turn behind like a traditional wrath that they're going to be able to get around, unless it is, of course, a verdict. But like the fact that it's 3 CMC and does -3/-3 means the math on that Merfolk deck is going to be a turn behind more often than not to be able to get there.
I think that, I think my biggest issue with this card, as much as I'm excited to have it as a tool, is that just like, are these decks that needed to be hated on versus other things? And humans is one. Like the problem is that these like tribal decks that are fun, like zombies, goblin, the colors focused ones, are kind of being hated on because spirits and humans are as problematic as they are. Something we didn't talk about. Also, this calls constructs. This calls thopters. Like this eats a lot of the other like weird. Like the cool thing, and this we were talking about this the other day after the Wizards versus Warlock conversation. People play Cavern of Souls in blue-white control decks or blue-red decks just to name Snapcaster Mage. Being able to flash your Snapcaster Mage and make it uncounterable is such a big game that being able to play Cavern of Souls in that deck is important.
Yeah.
So like, I think Wizards is looking for ways to fight that. And it also is leaning me towards thinking that Cavern of Souls, if they keep needing to do stuff like this, Cavern of Souls could just be in the long run a problematic card.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's where we all got really excited when humans was a thing, and now there's like 7 tribal decks, and they printed Unclaimed Territory after that. And so now we're starting to get into that world where it's like, I don't know actually if just the combination of 8 any creature lands plus the combination of Vile and Ziggurat means that this is going to be fun in the long run, or these decks are all going to be just too resilient.
And I go back and forth. Like on some ways, I'm cool. It's going to be really dope when someone comes and wins a tournament in Modern with a 4-color Knights deck. Like I think that's going to be really sick. I think that they now have the black, white, red land, and they now have Cavern of Souls, and they, being able to play a 1-drop night into a 2-drop night into a Night of Autumn into a Night of the Reliquary. Like there's like dope things you can do.
I lean on the direction right now that it's a good thing. So a couple quick shout outs before we get out of here. We have some patrons we want to shout out right now.
Yep. While we do that, can you tell everyone where we can find us on Twitter?
Yes, you guys, at the beginning of the show I mentioned, but one more time, you guys can find us at the MMCast. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media.
I'm at Kess Wiley.
We have an awesome Facebook group with an incredible group of mods. Go check that out. It's got like 6,000 people in it. Like, subscribe, comment. Check out our sister podcast and all of their content, The Command Zone. They're terrific. They have a great YouTube channel, The Command Zone. They do a show called Game Nights where they preview new cards all the time. It's like this awesome kind of, you guys probably know what Game Nights is, but it's a really good show. And then a show called Extra Turns as well.
And to our patrons, Jay Dixon, Jay Fry, Austin Richardson, Bob Patterson, and Daniel A. Gonzalez, thank you very much for supporting us.
Yeah, thank you. Check out patreon.com/the MMCast. It is one of the major ways you guys can help us keep the show rolling.
You get access to the Discord. You get access to the extended Raw Edition videos. In this episode, we literally spent like 30 minutes talking about the movie The Martian.
Yeah. So pay for that.
And last week we did the whole breakdown of the Warlock versus Wizard conversation that was exhausting, but it was fun for you guys. Marshall and Michael just picked on me.
I wasn't picking on you. It's more picking on Wizards for forgetting my faves, the Shamans. When will they get their day in the sun?
Tarkir.
All right, well, let's see it happen.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you, Wizards, for the free preview card. And we're just excited to play some Eldraine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'll be streaming. I figured it out. I put it all together. I'll be live streaming content.
And he's going to teach me so I can do it too.
Yep.
Bye,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your attention. See you later, alligator.
This has been a production of Time Traveler Media, sending podcasts into the future.